Thanks to Joyroom for sponsoring this video. I'm running the Joyroom OE3 clip-on earbuds. More on these earbuds later, but let's get into the topic of this video, the new Ace AF1 inverted Kingpin. There's been a lot of exciting things around the skateboard truck market lately. I got the Ace AF1 hollow inverted Kingpin. Excited to try these bad boys out today. We're going to jump into sort of just this whole new technology that Ace just came out with. I actually just got the base plates. They didn't have the size that I really wanted. So the nice part that they did is considered for like us. And I think a lot of skate truck companies do that. I don't know if you noticed, but I've noticed also with like the Thunder T2 and Lurpib and tons of other different companies. A lot of the times they come out with like maybe 2 different sizes. I think typically they just want to see if people are buying it, if they're interested, and then if they are, they come out with more sizes. Also, I would assume that they have to make different molds and there's more material and cost of a bigger truck, even though the cost normally doesn't go up. So I mean, I don't know for sure. But yeah, here they are. This is my first look at these bad boys, and that profile is really low. So I'm gonna be setting these up. I'll show you, we'll talk about them, but before we get into setting these up, actually recently skated a pair of the Thunder inverted Kingpin, so maybe we'll talk about some of the comparison after I skate the new Ace inverted. But first off, it's kind of nice. It has this little tool that comes with it. Each set of base plates, I gotta open the other one, but I'm pretty sure obviously they both come with one. I'm gonna guess they're sold individually. Typically, if you go to the website or anything like that, I did get these off a Skate Warehouse website, and yeah, so each one has this little tool, which is nice. I think the idea is that it can go into any skate tool and is really magnetic. Like, that is strong. The one thing I will say though, so like say if I didn't have this, comes with it, but say if you didn't have it, normally you can just use the back of your skate key. Same thing that you use with your hardware, so it seemed a little silly to me. Maybe you can inform me why you need that when you have, typically when you have a T-tool or any kind of skate key, they have the Allen and the Phillips head for your hardware. The same thing can be used here. I get why they did this and they added this, because normally you just have a skate key and you can tighten and loosen things really easily. And sometimes you do lose this part of your skate tool, don't get me wrong. Let's talk about some of the specs and the improvements and the changes in this truck. So the new revolutionary Kingpin design is called the Click Lock Pro. We'll see how that feels in a little bit, but essentially when you're tightening or loosening this, it's actually supposed to have like this locking noise, and it's a locking mechanism so that it doesn't get loose or tighten over time, which is pretty nice. They say its channel locking grooves clicks the Kingpin into place, creating our revolutionary sleeve system. The biggest advantage to an inverted Kingpin is the grind clearance for Smith grinds and feebles, which we're going to test out here in a second. The biggest grind clearance apparently than any other truck has ever made. Also, the bushings are new. They called it the suspension system. Comes with a custom 9mm top bushing and a newly designed recessed washer for superior turning, added clearance, and no break-in time. So we'll see what that break-in time is really like. It's a 94A low at the top, and then the bottom is a 86A STD. So as of right now, when I'm looking at the Ace website, Macy's Skate Supply, they only have 22s, 33s, 44s, and 55s available. And I like to ride 60s on an 8.5 board because I like a little bit of a longer axle so I can see my nut when I'm looking down on my board. So with only an 8.5 at the longest axle width available, I think a lot of people are gonna, hopefully, if you want to, take advantage of basically swapping out your Ace truck. So something you'll see on these bad boys too is how banged up that nut is and where that Kingpin is. Still a lot of hanger life left in this truck, which is really nice. Once you start getting down and you're snagging this thing quite a lot, it is just annoying. As you can also see, those bushings are pretty blown out. So basically, I'm going to be taking this older set, and they're not that bad. Like they're ground down. I'll show you. I think this is the back too. Like there's not much of a groove, considering most of the times my trucks get pretty grooved out, and that's the front truck, as you can see. And you'll be able to get more life out of your trucks in general with the inverted Kingpin. Not only do you get more grind clearance and you get less snagging, but also the lifespan of your trucks is going to last a lot longer. Here's another view of that washer. It's pretty beat up, so it's kind of a nice thing when you get this inverted base plate, is that you're also getting the bushings. They do come with it. I was a little scared at first, like if it was just the inverted Kingpin in the base plate without the bushings. Bushings come with it. The height difference right there too, as well. I mean, that's not a very fair comparison, but just looking at it, you can see how much taller it is, because Obviously I can still screw that down longer, but you get the idea. I do think like the pattern is pretty much the same. It looks like with the new inverted Kingpin, they dove in a lot more. Like it's a lot more carved in, so there's less metal on the bottom, where this one's pretty shallow. So I think that's how they got some more weight off the truck as well. Obviously these trucks were taken off for a reason. They were kind of destroyed, but the hangers themselves still really good. My landscaper might have just come, so we might have to move this session indoors. So I'm just gonna weigh out the standard base plate really quick and see where that sits at. 137 grams. 137. Let's see what the new inverted base plate weighs at. 129. This deck is so destroyed. Like the razor tail is pretty bad. Altogether, I've lost a lot of the pop. I have dots on the Easy Rider board shape. Like it's sharp right here, but I'm not sure if you want to hear more about this board. If you do, let me know. So the reason I'm bringing that up is because I'm actually just gonna have to like set up new trucks and new wheels on this board. The only thing I'm taking away from this board right now, because everything's pretty thrash, is the bearings and the rails. So I have this rail board I'm gonna set up as an 8.5 14.25 wheelbase. Same board I've been skating, but it is the R1 construction. Not too steep, not too mellow, which I kind of like. I feel like that's gonna be good in between for me. It's actually been quite a while where I've had everything pretty much brand new. I mean, this isn't everything. I'm gonna have used rails and used bearings. But man, today's session is gonna feel nice. I just take it off with the tool. I mean, maybe I can see how loosening it and tightening it. Whoa, that's crazy how it actually, you can hear the clicking noise. So yeah, the whole thing is threaded. It's so short too, so tiny. The whole base plate basically has threads through the whole thing. I guess the best way to do this is probably to put it all together and start screwing it in. Well, gotta get that pivot cup in there. I can hear it grabbing again. Because right here, this little tool is banging up. So you could do this whole thing. Kind of similar, but I can see the tool being handy, so we'll use the tool, make it easier. So I guess I do see the advantage. Probably get better leverage. Yeah, that is a lot easier. I think that's good for now. Normally, I mean, I just made a video about thunders. I just ride the trucks as they come, but since I'm putting a base plate on them, I don't really know. I like the color of the white bushings. It's nice. Something satisfying about this noise too. Seems like the pivot cup altogether isn't as deep, because I can see the marks on the trucks where my pivot cup was before. I don't know if you can see that, like down here. It looks like the pivot cup, or like the hanger went deeper into the pivot cup. Just seems like there's less of a little kind of area for it to sit in. Gotta get my wheels and bearings on and my rails on. Go break this bad boy in. Back outside, I actually found some reds that I was using for spare parts, but I realized I had quite a few left, so I'm gonna put some new bearings in this bad boy too. So really, the only thing that's used on this board is gonna be the hangers and the rails. I'm running my conical full 54mm 99 Formula 4s. Love this wheel. It's definitely my favorite Spitfire wheel. Tiny bit wider, nice and big. Wow, I didn't realize how small my wheels had gotten. That's the one thing with wheels sometimes, especially with Formula 4s, you don't realize like how small they're getting because they don't really get flat spots. So yeah, this is gonna be a big game changer. Once Lurpiv comes out with an inverted Kingpin, it's gonna be game over. I've been exploring with different options, of course, and that's the only gripe I have with Lurpivs is that the Kingpin is a little high, but other than that, it's my favorite truck because you get the stability. I love Aces, but I also feel like when you're going straight, you don't get the same stability that you do with Lurpiv. I'm excited to go try some Smith grinds and Feebles. Before we get the first break-in session with these bad boys, I do want to quickly shout out Joyroom for hooking me up with these headphones. They are the sponsor of this video. I've actually been running these for the past couple sessions, but I'm going to be wearing these during all of my skating today because I'm going to be skating alone for the most part on my ramp, and then we're going to head over to the skate park they're really nice because the way they sit in your ears. I'm actually pretty hyped on these headphones. They clip into your ear really easy. It's got the innovative L-bridge design. It's got the full area tap control, which is pretty nice, and you really forget that they're even there if you're not playing music. They're lightweight and stable, so I'm obviously moving a lot, moving my head around a lot while I'm skating. They never get loose. They also don't pinch my ear at all or feel weird after having them on for a long time. And you can also hear your skateboarding and surrounding elements, which I think is really important. I ended up skating a lot more than I could film because my SD card got full, unfortunately. So there was a lot more skating that did happen, but I wasn't able to capture it. However, I want to give you guys some thoughts on these trucks. Before I get actually into that, it was $44 for both sets of these base plates. And if you want to get the trucks brand new, they're around $90, probably plus some tax, shipping if you're not getting it from your local skate shop, but hopefully you can go support your local skate shop. So it's almost half the price if you already have some existing hangers that you want to switch this up on. Also, something else I noticed is that on the Ace YouTube description in their video, they said you can switch the hangers with your classic Aces and your AF1s, but then on their Instagram they said that you can only switch it with the AF1. So which one it is, I don't know. I think you're gonna have to hit up Ace Trucks for the clarification on that one. However, I do have some thoughts about these bad boys. The first thing that I'll kind of jump into is the break-in time. Because Ace has mentioned that these bushings are basically going to be like quick and easy to break in, I always find that kind of weird. I don't always think it works out that way. I will say with the recent Thunder T2s, I was able to break those in really quick right away. I think I will say, and be the devil's advocate here, is because I'm setting up a base plate on a different hanger, there could be more of a break-in time where, like, if you get the truck assembled and everything like that, maybe the break-in time won't be as bad. But what I'm getting at and I'm alluding to is that the break-in time actually felt very rough. Like, I wasn't able to skate the trucks right away. The bushings actually felt really stiff for the first few turns. And again, that could be because maybe I just put them on too tight and I didn't have that sort of factory setup, whatever they do in the factory, where you get the board and you just skate the trucks as they come, which is normally what I prefer, and then I'll start to adjust the bushings. So that could kind of affect your break-in time. For me, I feel like the break-in time was actually a lot longer than the T2s that I recently had set up. Those, I do feel like they were really squirrely and really loose at first. However, I was able to skate them. With these, I was able to skate them. I just didn't feel like they were superior or faster in any way of like a non-break-in. It felt pretty standard to me. Like any bushing, you have to have a break-in time, in my opinion. So yeah, it did take a little bit of an adjustment of just carving around as far as the bushings go. I did feel like they were very stable compared to other Ace bushings. My last AF1 bushings you saw earlier, as I showed you, they got really blown out and sort of just didn't have any more support in them. So you get that real good turn with Ace, but you didn't get that support. So it was just like too deep of a turn. And the reason that really affects your skating is when you're riding straight or you're trying to do flip tricks and you're not trying to carve on your toes or your heels. that is when I noticed that these bushings were a lot better. Sorry, my exposure keeps going down and up because the clouds are in and out right now. Let me adjust that really quick. I just felt more stable with these bushings. I was still able to get that nice Ace churn, but I was able to just ride straight without like falling over toe side or hillside. So I will say these bushings do seem like improvement. I still need to skate this board a lot more. All in all, I think the bushings are really good. I think I got to keep skating it. I will say I did get quite a lot of wheel bite. Even on that first session, you can see there's pretty much a wheel bite mark on every single wheel. And that is the one thing with Aces that I sort of will complain about. It's just that you get wheel bite. Like no matter how tight you still have your truck, you can get wheel bite. Man, the exposure keeps going bright and then dark. Do I just leave it? I feel like you don't want to watch a blown out version of me or a super dark version of me. I guess this is when filming inside is actually probably nicer. I think the bushings are really good. Do I think the break-in time is incredibly fast? No. I'd say it's pretty much the same as any other bushing. You do get a lot of wheel bite on this truck. I think that's just how it goes with these. Unlike Lure Piv, where it has that pivot cup area where it kind of restricts your wheel bite at one certain point. I really do wish in the perfect world you can have the Lure Piv hanger on the inverted Kingpin with these and then have that stability of the Thunder. It's such a wishy-washy want, and every truck company is going to have their different pros and cons, and you know, it's kind of like pants. Someone made that metaphor with trucks recently, depending on how you like them to fit. But I am riding 54mm wheels, to be fair, with no riser pads. However, with the Lure Pivs, I don't have that issue, and I did get wheel bite with the Thunders as well. Now, as far as the difficulty of switching out the base plate with my hangers, it really wasn't that hard. Just like switching out your bushings or anything like that. At first I was a little confused on how to do it because it is an inverted Kingpin. It's just like floating. You have to line everything up and screw it in. Super easy though. If you've ever changed out bushings, it's basically the same thing. Yeah, that is just too dark. If you already have some Ace hangers, I would just suggest switching out the base plate. Save yourself some money. And I haven't ridden Ace trucks in a while, but I did feel like the churn was a little bit stiffer. And I'm not sure if that goes back to the bushings, but I just didn't feel like it was as loose or as like churny, carby, call it what you want, as an original AF1, or even better, the Ace Classics, which I think, in my opinion, is better than the AF1s, but that's a whole different conversation. I do think it was a little bit of a different churn. Same geometry, obviously, somewhat. Seems like I don't think they changed the geometry. It just felt like it wasn't as quick and responsive, but that could be due to the bushings, where it's nice because you have that stability, but at the same time you don't get that churning. Now obviously the biggest question is, does the Kingpin get loose, right? Like everyone wants to know that, and I think I'm just going to need to spend a lot more time on these bad boys. Like normally it's after like 10 sessions or something, that's when that stuff starts to happen. So I'm not quite there yet, so I can't speak on it. However, I will say with just like the way that it locks into, clicks into place, it does give me a lot of confidence that it's not going to slip in. If it did slip, it would lock into that little slip spot. So maybe if it got loose, it wouldn't go a full churn loose. It would go like, you know what I mean, a slight dial. So I am pretty confident that these aren't going to get loose, and I do think it is a huge upgrade as far as like a inverted Kingpin goes. It does seem like this is really, really nice. I'm not sure if they're trying to patent this locking mechanism design, but if Ace can do this and Thunder can do this and all the other trunk companies that you might like can do it, that's pretty cool to offer this sort of new technology so that you don't have to deal with the inverted Kingpin getting loose. If I was going to compare these to the Thunder inverted Kingpin, I would say I like these more, simply because I like the churn more. With the inverted Thunder, I don't like how stiff the churn was. But if you're into Thunders, then I would probably go with an inverted Thunder before we switched over to an inverted Ace. There's just a whole different truck, whole different type of churn. It's really night and day, honestly. Like if you're trying to compare the two, it's really, really different. Thunder inverted truck, I would say, is more for like a tech ledge flat ground type of skater, where this is going to be much better for someone that likes to skate curves or transition, or in general just likes a looser truck. Lastly, I will say I did actually hit the Kingpin, believe it or not. I'll show you the marks. I don't know if you can see them. There's a few little scratch marks down here. Not really on the Kingpin, but on this big washer up here. I don't know if you can tell. I swear, I'm not lying. There's some marks on there. And to be fair, that's because I was being very, very dramatic. Like, I was Smith grinding to the point where I was trying to dip it so much where I was almost hanging up and going into disaster just to see if I could potentially do it. And at that point, like, it's really not realistic to expect to keep grinding like that because your weight is so dipped down. I just did it to just experiment to see if I could hang up, even if it wasn't realistic to grind anymore, if that makes sense. Like I was churning so much that I was just hanging up and like basically slipping into a lip slide or disaster before it actually catch the Kingpin, but I was able to get it. I don't think that's a very practical way to skate these trucks. You probably want to do that. But yeah, you can grind it. I mean, there are some marks on there, so it is possible. However, as far as the clearance goes, it is so nice. Like, it felt really nice dipping into Smith grinds. Feeble grinds I'm not so good at. I did a few on the curb there. Did a few feeble grind to fakies or feeble stalled fakies, but back Smiths and front Smiths were really, really nice to have that reassurance. And I will say, something that people don't really talk about, and you know, maybe people don't want to hear, but sometimes having that Kingpin space is actually really nice. It almost creates a lock spot for backsmith or front smith. Like it forces you to go in between your wheel and the Kingpin. And that's not always the case. You don't want to get snagged up, but sometimes it is nice to have that sort of in between. I will say with front smiths and backsmiths with the inverted Kingpin, it takes more balance, it takes more board control to hold your Smith grind, where if you have the Kingpin, it actually is holding a little bit of a secret lock spot for you. At a certain point, obviously it's going to snag and you're not going to be able to grind any further, but just to play devil's advocate, it's not always having a lower Kingpin going to make you grind longer, because sometimes it does take a lot more control and balance. So overall, that's my thoughts on these bad boys. I really do like them. I'm hype on this board setup. It's going to be my skate park setup for right now, while I'm using the other board for the streets and letting it get all torn up, and then I'll swap it out again with something else. But yeah, I'm loving these bad boys. They're nice. They're definitely gonna need some more break-in. I do think the bushing still needs some more break-in time. Even with slash grinds, I was trying to slash and chuck bash really quick. It's just, it feels like there's no tension. Again, that could be a good or bad thing, but let me know if you have any questions about these trucks. Mash.